We're live. Hey, Roberto, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Dieter. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your time today. It's a pleasure to have you. It's been some time since we talked for the first time. Yeah, first of all, introduce yourself. Who are you?
Absolutely. Yeah, my name is Roberto Talamas. Currently, I'm a partner at Syncracy Capital. We're a long-only hedge fund within the cryptocurrency industry. A little bit background on myself. I started my career in traditional finance, working at BlackRock. I spent about 4 years and a half at the firm. The first 2 years, I spent it more in the world of risk management. My main role was to be the lead risk manager for the factor-based investment portfolios that the company had as products. I think that area gave me a pretty clear idea of factor-based models, concepts of risk management frameworks, and essentially taught me how to professionally manage a portfolio from the risk management point of view. My second role at BlackRock, my last 2 years at the firm, were within the systematic fixed income trading group. And within this hedge fund, I focus a lot on building high performance Python tooling to make research very simple. So if a researcher had an idea, we wanted to make sure that this person had the tools to go from idea to implementation in a matter of a couple of hours. We'll touch on this on like one of the reasons why I like OpenBB so much is because a lot of the technology that we're building for this hedge fund resembles a lot to what we're building internally at BlackRock to make this research possible. So the motto that we had was like research at the speed of thought. And a lot of times, as you can see, and I'm sure that you imagine from a lot of your users, and in the case of OpenBB as well, this collapsing the amount of time it takes from going from an idea to gathering the data, to transforming the data, to generating a signal can take an enormous amount of time. So basically, that's where I got my Python chops. I went from just writing scripts to like actually building high performance software. And around 2019, I just caught the crypto bug. A friend and he called me and he said, "Hey, I know this thing called Ethereum." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Yes, I heard about Ethereum in 2017." Funny enough, actually, when I joined BlackRock, I joined in 2017, and I remember all the analysts would have this like lunch with Larry Fink, the CEO, and I turned out to be one of the lucky analysts, lucky quote unquote analysts, to have lunch with Larry during my first week at the job. And I remember around that time is when Bitcoin and Ethereum were just going through the moon. Like we're talking about like peak ICO era. Everyone's going crazy about this. And I remember asking Larry, "Hey Larry," it was Larry and the chief risk officer there, Ben Golub. And I said, "Hey, like, what do you guys think of this crypto? What do you think of Bitcoin and Ethereum?" And they were like, just don't waste your time there. Like, there's nothing there. And foolishly, I believed them. And I said, "Okay, sir, like, you're very wealthy and very powerful. I'm going to listen to you." I wish I did it. But in 2019, I made the jump to crypto. Actually, I started diving into crypto a little bit more, made the full-time jump in 2021. But my rabbit hole journey started with building an Ethereum rig and sort of getting an idea of like what is this thing called mining, how do we get rewards, et cetera. And slowly but surely, I started going deeper and deeper. And then by late, I want to say 2020, when the pandemic hit, that's when basically I just went all in. I was like, I gotta go to this industry. So in 2021, I joined Messari. And for those unfamiliar with the company, Messari is a data analytics company that's focusing on aggregating a bunch of crypto data so that to legitimize the industry for the big players. And I joined as a researcher. So I joined and I started doing DeFi research, and I started focusing a lot on DAO treasuries as well, because if you look at a DAO and you look at a treasury, and their treasury is basically a portfolio. So I was like, well, I've dealt with this kind of portfolios and this kind of allocations in the past. Like I could probably apply similar practices to this. So I spent about 8 to 9 months in that role. And then Ryan Selk is the CEO. Noticed that I was the only one that I could program Python. Believe it or not, I was one of the few, if not the only one at Messari back then when we were maybe like 20, 25 people that could write Python. And in his head, that was excuse enough for me to, or that was a requirement enough for me to be build and lead the data science team at the firm. I'd never built a team. I had no idea how to do that, but I was like, sure, why not? Let's do it. So the second half of my tenure at Messari was spent on building, developing, and managing the data science team at Messari. I started with one guy, and then we grew that to about 12. And now the guys are doing its own thing, ingesting a bunch of data from a bunch of different chains, et cetera, et cetera. So that was an incredible experience. And I was there until March of this year, 2023. This is when I joined Syncracy Capital. There was an opportunity for someone to do or lead the data analytics effort for the fund. And as you've seen, because you guys have basically a data product and crypto, knowing and extracting data is basically a superpower, right? Like unlike equities where everything can be obfuscated, everything's on chain. So if you have the chops to extract it and derive insights from it, you can be very powerful. So the role was there, the need was there, and the two founders, I work with two of the founding members at Messari, so it just made a lot of sense. So I joined in 2023, and here I am.
It's amazing. Yeah, your journey is amazing. Like BlackRock, Messari, and now like leading your own fund is just like so fast as well. That's really, really exciting. Nice. Thanks.
It's been a roller coaster, man. You've seen it. It's been a roller coaster this entire thing,
Good.
but it's fun.
Who would have told the guy taking a lunch with BlackRock CEO, now leading his own fund in a matter of like, what, 4 or 5 years? That's insane. 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years, exactly. Yeah. Wow. I wish I didn't take that lunch because I probably would have had more money in Bitcoin and Ethereum. But back then, as a foolish analyst, I thought, oh yeah, sure, I'm gonna listen to you.
You learn your lesson. You learn your lesson that day, though.
And now you have Larry Fink being the biggest Bitcoin bull on CNBC. So how the
tables have turned.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so funny. And so today, what motivates you? Like, I mean, you've been like an analyst, like playing with Python. Then at Messari, your role evolved into like leading a team. Now you're like managing a fund. Like your responsibilities are growing like exponentially. Like, what motivates you on a day-to-day basis? Like, what do you wake up in the morning and are really looking forward to?
Yeah, it's a very exciting time to be managing a long-only liquid fund. Particularly, we're a small team, so we're 5 people, and I'm in charge of essentially everything that has to do with data. So making sure that the portfolio analytics are on point, they're accurate, making sure that we have the correct analytics for our investments, making sure that we have actually good coverage on the assets that we're interested in investing or have invested in. I love data, dude. I'm not gonna lie to you. If I could just be in my cave writing code for the entire day, that's the life. It's something that I've learned over my previous roles. Managing a team, I think I had a pretty solid idea that, well, actually it wasn't a very solid idea, but before managing a team at Messari, in my head, I wanted to be a manager. After becoming a manager, I realized, okay, this might not be the best thing for me. There are certain things that are great about managing a team, particularly when you see guys within your team growing and developing their skill sets and just growing within the firm. That's very rewarding. But I think that it drained me to have just constant conversations with everyone and not having enough time to code. And that's when I realized, I think my motivation and what gets me up in the morning is essentially have the opportunity to just like program it the entire day. You can ask the follow-up question. I think like a good follow-up is the programming side. There's the programming that you do with OpenBB, which is like building a tool set to extract data very quickly. And then there's a programming that's more on the statistical, machine learning, AI, and all that. I think I come more from the AI, machine learning, all that, and then I've learned the more infrastructure software. Like you basically wouldn't hire me at this point because my code would not be to the standards of OpenBB world. But those are the two areas that keep me motivated. I mean, there's a lot of cool things going on, and everyone seems to love Python, so I'm very happy where I'm at on that front.
Nice. Yeah, I'm super bullish in Python for financial world. Like I'm, being in this industry now for 2 years, I think I've seen it in the first seat, like how Python is being adopted. It's just crazy, like particularly in academia. So
Yep.
same universities we are having conversations, they are now having like a lot of Python on their courses, whereas like 2 years ago they were starting to think about it. It's just wild. Even the CFA program is announcing like a lot of Python, and I had a podcast before today, and someone asked that question, and I was just saying like the amount of like research now that comes out of people like saying, everyone is saying that Python is in the future of like finance, like whether you want it or not is going to become as basic of a skill as Excel, because Excel will only take you so far, but then you need to do things in Python to automate. And I think that this is kind of, it was a long bet of OpenBB. It's like, let's have everything Python at the core level so that people can build on top of us. And then, if we want, we can wrap around the fast API, and then you can build like an app on like Next.js on top, for instance. But like, let's focus on Python for now, so we can eat like quants, analysts, like financial, like academia, and yeah.
Great bet.
So,
Fantastic bet.
Yeah.
Funny enough, when I joined BlackRock, and this wasn't that long ago, like 2017. The risk management department, like the entire risk management arm, which was called risk, I think it's still called risk and quantitative analysis. They, for some reason, adopted R as the main coding language for everything that they're doing. And I think it came from, as you can imagine, a lot of the people that work there, they have math PhDs and stats and math, etc. And to your point about academia, basically relying on R, MATLAB type like scripting languages to do a lot of the analysis. That's what you saw within the risk or RQA group in BlackRock. And I remember coming in and saying like, guys, this is dumb. Like, let me show you like what a Jupyter notebook is, and like we'll do this in a heartbeat. And a lot of like the evolution started like that. And if you work closely with the systematic investment teams within BlackRock, they were already in Jupyter notebooks and Python. For some reason, the risk guys were just in R and MATLAB for a while. So I think that was one of the things that gave me a slight edge over all the Harvard kids and all the Stanford kids that were there. That I just naturally gravitated towards Python, and it made sense to me. Like, and I mean, if you see R, like the syntax is garbage. So no hate on any
R. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, I feel that so this year, one of the goals I had was to learn more web development. And for me, like when I compare, like Python is like you code up as you think. Everything is like so trivial, and like I don't have like 10 years of coding experience, but like I can tell you that after 1 year of Python, of like doing on my spare time, I was like highly proficient in the language. Like when I started the terminal, I only had like 1 year ish of Python. I use it at work, but only just a bit. I code mostly C++. So what I learned on my spare time was enough to build OpenBB Terminal, the core basic concept, which is a beast,
Is that for real? Like you just picked up Python years ago and then you just build the core of
Yeah, I was actually on a similar trend that you. So I finished university, and I was really excited about machine learning and AI, in specific, like the self-driving cars. But anyway, so I thought that Python was my best bet for the future of machine learning and AI. And so I just consumed it like, non-stop. Like I would finish my day work as a software engineer doing C++ code on the firmware and just do Python projects on my spare time. And I became really proficient in like a year. And then that's like after, I think, 1 year ish, that's when I started building OpenBB GameStone terminal at the time. But
I remember seeing, well, I was gonna segue into OpenBB, but
I was gonna ask that. When did you hear about this first? Was it GameStone terminal or OpenBB?
Oh no, it was OpenBB terminal, and it was before you guys had an SDK. So what, maybe 6-7 months ago? Is that correct?
Yeah, we had the SDK, well, in November, so actually more like 8 months ago, end of November, beginning of December. So yeah, around 8-9 months ago is when we announced the SDK.
I remember seeing it and thinking, wow, this is a really cool product, because it was on the terminal at the beginning. And I was thinking, how can I enable my partners to be able to do data analysis relatively quickly without having to learn Python, and also like leaving Excel to a degree. That's when I bumped into OpenBB, and I found it on Twitter, I think. I can't remember exactly how I came across, but as soon as I saw it, I downloaded it and I started messing around with the terminal, and I was like, this is incredible. I started creeping around your GitHubs and quickly realized that it was just like the terminal was basically calling this Python library on the background. That was giving me all the data that I needed. And you might kill me for this, but before you had an SDK, I basically just forked your GitHub and I put in a local copy in my computer and then added a setup.py so I could pip install it. And then I started using it in like a Jupyter notebook. So I'll take all the credit for creating the SDK before you guys. I'm joking, but that was
funny.
The power from OpenBB. It's because I've been building at BlackRock. I've been building tooling that is essentially OpenBB but internal to BlackRock. The first one that we started developing, my manager and I, was this Python library called Black Swan that essentially allowed risk managers and also investors to calculate risk analytics like very, very quickly using a pip installable Python package. So it's basically no different than what you guys built. So we will connect to a ton of internal databases, a ton of different, SQL tables, et cetera, and then we would just build the pipelines and transformations and return like a pretty data frame, the same way that you guys do it. So building that, and then within the systematic fixed income group, we built something that's called Black Mamba. And for some reason, like all the internal tooling Python in BlackRock is like BLK, some animal name. Black Swan, Black Mamba, Black Viper, Black whatever. So coming into when I first bumped into OpenBB, I was like, I've seen this. I've built similar things. You guys just like ingested 100+ different data sets that I wasn't doing. So you just scale. If you compare Black Swan to OpenBB, like Black Swan is a 10th or a 15th of the code base that you guys have for OpenBB. But the idea was basically the same. It's like, okay, let me just make sure that investors, analysts, et cetera, don't spend time transforming or rearranging and getting the data from different data sources. Like here, there's a nice little pandas data frame for you to do whatever you want with it. So it wasn't hard for me to see the vision of OpenBB, because that's basically the tooling that I've been building before.
That's amazing. Like I learned from because I didn't know all of this, right? I started building OpenBB Terminal even without having ever played with the Bloomberg Terminal, right? I was building it out of my own needs. I was trying to replicate the mental model that I have of finance and how I wanted things to be categorized. And ultimately, I wanted to automate that research to save time. And when there was a lot of traction, right, since the beginning from the terminal. And then after we spent like a couple of months and talking to users, I understood that people actually wanted the SDK, which is like exactly what you say. They're like, the terminal is amazing because I can get access to all the data, but I want to do more. I want the step after. And what we saw a lot of people doing is we would use the terminal to download the data and then ingest it in another place. We're using an Excel. So they were like, if you add an API, I will just do these workflows being seamless, and that's when we started thinking about, okay, how can we rethink? Because the SDK is like we built first the terminal and then the SDK. So we had to find a way to basically cut our model view controller pattern in order to grab the data from the models and create like a Python library that people could just plug and play. And so it's amazing that you are seeing it like firsthand, that in much bigger companies everyone is like doing that. At the end of the day, that's also something that when I talk with people at bigger companies like Two Sigma, Citadel, like everyone is kind of reinventing the wheel. Everyone is doing this. to a certain extent, and they may change the data vendors that they incorporate or the way to do the command call, but the data integration standardization, everyone does it. And I have not yet met a firm that is like, like that has someone who codes that doesn't has anything on the side. So there's never a firm that just uses Bloomberg or Affinity Factor. Every firm has their own like side complement solution, because at the end of the day, you always need something custom. You always need something, whether that is an Excel file, whether it is a notebook report, a Streamlit app, it doesn't matter, but you need that custom. And so they end up going into the same trajectory. And so it's very interesting how you are seeing this like play out from like, first seat.
Yeah, it was very obvious when I bumped into it, and that's why I think that's how we ended up talking for the first time. I just DM'd you and say, hey, like, is there an SDK for this, or like, can I just plug it in? And I didn't want to tell you that I did it myself, because like you already had the entire code base built. All I did was add the setup.py file, so I can just pip install it, and that's it.
It's so cool. It's so funny. I'm finding it about it. No.
It was great. The one thing that I'll say about OpenBB that I think has an over advantage of this internal tooling, and this also speaks to a lot of the examples in crypto, is that you have the power of your community. Unlike any internal tooling that any finance firm is going to be building in Python, like you can allow people to very simply write code within a certain standard, and that code base can be maintained and covered by the community as a whole. I don't know if you're familiar with this company called Dune Analytics in crypto. Okay.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Exactly. They're one of the biggest success as a data company has been that they essentially are no different than Facebook or Instagram in the way that the content creation platform is community driven.
The wizards.
Wizards, exactly. Yeah. So wizards, and they have an entire community of wizards, and there's now famous wizards. So like there's now incentive for someone to come in and do a really good analytics for the platform because they can get famous. In a similar vein, when I was looking at the OpenBB code base, I was thinking this is no different than like I can just write a quick function that pulls from a specific data source, and I can do a PR to y'all's GitHub. You can check it, and then you can merge it in, and you get the same benefit of providing a unified entry point, which is the OpenBB SDK that is powered by every single community member. I promise that at some point, if you let me, I will do a nice PR of some crazy data set just to say that I contributed.
Yes, please. Look, that analogy is actually really good, because I've used Dune as an example because Dune is very good because they are massive in the crypto space and they really focus on these SQL queries. In an analogy side, what we do is we don't use the SQL, so you develop things in Python, but we have now the hub, and our goal with the hub is to start having people having their own profiles and being able to share things. And this isn't announced right now, but when people see this, it will have been announced. We're gonna announce community routines tomorrow, and basically community routines are people being able to write a scripting language on OpenBB, and then you go into the terminal and you just execute an URL of a routine. That's it. It runs the entire thing by yourself, and we want to extend that to not just a script routine. We want to extend that to a Streamlit dashboard. We want to extend that to even a notebook. You can, using Papermill, you can set a notebook template, and then you can run it for any like ticker, and it just replaces all of the data. And then you just make an analysis and you save it and you can share. So the hub for us is going to be that community platform where people will be able to enhance their research and learn from other users. So yeah, Dune is doing an amazing work, and we look up for how they did it, because it is just impressive.
Empower something. The general lesson to take from that is that if you empower your community to make your product better, of course, given some constraints, right? Given some framework programming, you don't want to have like a bunch of patchy work in there. You're gonna outcompete any private service anytime, because like 1,000 people programming or providing you one function is gonna be better than 2 guys just maintaining one single Python library.
I mean, that was why I open sourced the project in the first place. For me, that was never a question of having it closed source, because my background is not finance. and I wanted to get better at finance. So I was like, the best way for me to do that. And I got the proof of that really early on. So I'd been open sourcing stuff for a while, but it was always more of a show off. And I was like, it's helpful for me. It might be helpful for other people. I didn't really think much about it. And this one ended up going viral, right? And when I understood the impact of these, like we got straight a lot of PRs, like small fixes, re-architecture things, but when I really understood the impact of this was when someone, one day I wake up in the morning, I go GitHub first thing, someone added a full menu for Forex. I had never traded Forex in my life. And I was like, this is powerful. Like this is a full Forex menu with commands, with a way to access their Oanda account and use it right next to the equity data that we have access. And I was like, this is powerful. Like this person spent their own personal time building these. And this is one person out of like millions out there that helped build open source. And then if companies start adopting your project, they will give back to the platform because they want this success. So I think that what you said is exactly right. It's really hard to compete with open source after you get that you need to kind of build a sustainable company, but as soon as you eat that, in our case, like we are VC backed, so we are kind of comfortable in terms of capital right now. And as you build that, then it's really hard to beat that. And I think that I'm a big open source advocate. I think that most of like the tech in like 10 years will be mostly open source, to be honest.
Oh, I agree. I think you guys are right on the right path of building.
Thank you. And so one of the questions that I have is like, so how are you using OpenBB today? We talked about how you heard about us and you understand like the vision and the problems. How are you using it today? What is then I'm assuming that the SDK is the one that you use the most right now, but
big. So I started using the terminal first and getting familiar with your data sets. I think what the terminal is great at doing that maybe the SDK is not. Now that you guys have beautiful documentation, that's no longer true. But back then, the terminal was the best way to explore the data sets that OpenBB was offering. In the SDK world, that was a little bit challenging because you have to look at essentially all the functions in your repo to figure out, okay, this is what I'm going to be getting. So I used it mainly as a data exploration tool, mostly around a lot of the economic events that you guys aggregate is fantastic. It makes my life so much easier. A lot of equity data on earnings is we use that all the time for our monitoring dashboards. And then every once in a while, I mess around with the option stuff that you guys have too. But I started essentially my journey using the terminal as a data exploration tool. And then once I got a good hang of the data sets and how to call them, I essentially migrated everything into the Python SDK. So everything that is related to traditional finance data sets flows through OpenBB. And the powerful thing about OpenBB is that you just uploaded a lot of the work that I would have to be doing for the fund anyway. Now I don't have to worry about the engineering or the data engineering required to gather data from a ton of different data sources. I can just focus on the analysis itself or the visualization component as well. So everything that we have in terms of dashboard monitoring for traditional finance data sets is all coming from OpenBB.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a strong sign of trusting us. I really appreciate that, Robert.
Oh, now you just got to put all the on-chain data there, and then you have.
I know, right? I know. We have a crypto person in house, and he's been talking about it. It all comes down about priorities, but he has this internal spreadsheet of all the things that he wants to add. And if we were to give him a month to build that, our crypto menu would be insane. So it's just a matter of priority, but we'll get there.
Yeah. That'd be exciting. I can also imagine your end user currently is more someone that is working in traditional finance. Is that right?
Yeah, we see more traditional finance. Yep. People are also traditional finance looking into alternative assets. So we've got even real estate in the UK things now. Macroeconomy is one of our most popular menus. Equity, I think, is the first one. Then crypto, I think, is the third, fourth.
Macro, I use that all the time. Your economic events monitor, it's great. I've built some crazy tools around using that data set, mostly around Slack bots. So nice. wanted to have essentially like a view of, I think I can, yeah, I can probably share this code with you, but what I wanted to do is have a way for the guys to be very well aware of the upcoming economic events, exactly, of the week. So using OpenBB, I ingested data that you guys have, and then I was like, well, I can just pass this to Slack very simply. Turns out that Slack is not great with tables though. So if you try to pass in a table, it has to be like a weird string. But if your table is of certain length, then it's all messed up. So what I ended up doing is that I had no idea this was possible.
An image. You convert into an image and then you send the image, or
yeah, I basically just created a table using matplotlib so that I can arrange it in like whatever format I want, and then just like send the image. Exactly.
I knew you were going to say that, because so we have the bot, right? And our bot, we built the bot because people at the beginning, they were like, terminal is really good, but if you want to ever get close to a Bloomberg, you need to have an internal shot, because that's the most used thing. Like a lot of people have this idea that the shot is the best thing about Bloomberg, and that's only the thing. Anyway, and our perspective was like, when you're talking with your colleagues and coworkers, you are already using like a tool, whether that is Slack, whether that is Microsoft Teams. So why do you need to drop from that platform into an investment research platform to keep that chat going if you're already speaking there? So our idea was like, let's just bring the data to you, to where you are. I mean, it's possible through API. All of these tools have API, and then they support. You are not limited by the platform they support, because for instance, we support Discord and Telegram, and so that means it works on phone, it works on like an iPad, it works on your laptop. And so that's what we started to build, and we hit that issue. The first time it was like, okay, but tables, like, you render okay on the laptop, and then I use the phone and it's like, what the hell is this? I don't understand anything. So we were like, let's convert this into an image, and then on the phone they can just click and it enlarges the images and they can see it perfectly. And we support Discord and Telegram, and I like the validation that you are giving. And what I talked with the team is like, we need to start doing integrating Slack, and is again just a matter of priority, because we built the platform in a way that is almost like agnostic from which app we're using. So to integrate with Slack will probably take us a week. But like once we do that, I think that Slack is a better place, because I see more quants and like financial analyst firms using Slack than they use. Like Telegram is kind of used in the crypto world, but compared with Slack in terms of like professional level, is there's no comparison. So it's really nice that you're talking about this, because we'll make it available and then I'll ping you with that update.
That'd be awesome, man. Yeah. It seems like I wanna think that I'm slightly ahead of building all these products that you guys want to build. The SDK and now the Slack interview. Come on, man. Before we make a decision to build something, I'm gonna ask you if you have done it, because you might as well give me some of the code. Yeah, actually, I'm speaking briefly about the Slack integration. It's really simple. I mean, I'm sure your engineering team can tackle that relatively quickly. Where it got most challenging is basically just formatting that matplotlib table into a nice image. That's what took forever.
But we got that. We got that because we've done it already.
Yeah. Once you get it, it's epic. And then the charts, when it comes to like a chart, one thing that I want to build with Slack, which requires quite a bit of like server management too, but like I would love to do something similar. I think you guys do this with Telegram, where you say like / some parameter, enter, and then you get an image. That's something that I would love inside Slack. Because currently the way that you have to handle it, for myself, in my case, you need to have some server that is listening all the time for requests from the bot in Slack. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to like go into server management, making sure that it's okay. And to be honest with you, that's a skill that I need to pick up. But ultimately, that's kind of where I want to go with the Slack integration. Is whenever, hey guys, you want to see the economic events calendar, you want to see the earnings, upcoming earnings, cool, just type / earnings, enter, and boom, you got it.
That's exactly what we do. So we have that. We have that all. We do that for free. You can literally register. I have a shot. Actually, I had a call with someone from a crypto fund 2 days ago, and they didn't know about the bot. So I created a group with them with Telegram, so for us to chat. And I added our bot there, and I just did like slash like big prints in terms of crypto for Solana, and then it just showed me that table. And then I did like price of Ethereum, and then it just shows like the price, and then you can click and you open like a dashboard like of price in real time. And so it makes like, I mean, if you're sitting down and you want to do a full research, like you're not gonna do that. But if you just want to see what's happening this week, like for me to look into my investments, what's happening, I can create my watch list, and then I can just quickly send a message, and it replies back within like 1 second. And yeah, so we are definitely going into that direction, and we are doing it for free because we're like, you know, let's have the community have fun with this. And the only way you can actually pay for it is if you want to host it internally and you don't want us to see it. But if you as a user, if you, and it's not only to see it, but you have a bit more control of the settings, and you can, for instance, add ads even on top of the charts because you are basically paying for it. So we were like, you know, this is good for a content creator if they have like their own Discord group and then they want to advertise something. They can say, okay, I'm going to be on a live stream at this time, and they can, that appears every time someone does like chart of Apple or something like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Very, very useful, man. Like, and on anything that generates like tables and charts, that will be epic. And that's, I haven't explored that too much, but I know that you guys do it in Telegram, because I've seen some of your tweets where you just like show how to do it. And I'm like, doing it in Slack would be tight.
That's we have more than 100 commands, by the way, on that. Like is wild. Yeah, is wild. Like we want, the idea, our goal is to do a one-to-one with the terminal, and the first step, so that the convention is the same whether you use the SDK, the terminal, or the bot. And the second part of it is allowing you to build custom commands, and we helping you hosting. So let's say, like, you know, economic calendar, earnings, like macroeconomy, CPI, all of those things are kind of generic, but we want people to be able to create their custom commands and bringing them from the terminal, so that you can create a dash, you know, Roberto, and it does something, and that can be as simple as a chart, or it can be a PDF, because Discord supports like PDF, and could be a PDF of a report. It probably takes a few more seconds because it needs to run and render all of the data on the backend. But you know, you click and here's the full report on that equity that you are trying to look this week. And that's kind of where we're adding. But now we took a bit of a stand back to prioritize the pro development, which should be coming soon. So hopefully we'll get back to this at some point.
Bots. Well, I'm gonna be building some bots, and then whenever you're ready, we can just talk, and I'll give you all the code. Don't worry.
let's do that. And yeah, so I mean, continuing this situation, like this discussion, like what do you expect more from us? I mean, apart from, you know, doing things like 6 months in advance so that when you look into them, they're ready.
Maybe you should be asking me that question. Like, yeah, like I think there's 2 examples now where I'm one little step ahead of you guys. What do I expect from OpenBB? I think one big one is managing the data sets on the crypto side. I mean, for me, that's priority. Dune is, and of course, this doesn't have to be a priority for y'all, but like as a crypto-only hedge fund, I mess around with a lot of on-chain data. And so getting on-chain data right now is basically, I'm in the same camp that I was before, where I need to build my own tooling to extract the data either from a node or from Dune or from whatever data source you need. So I think beefing up the crypto stuff would be fantastic, because in that way I would essentially just use OpenBB for any data ingestion that I need. Your conversation about bots, that's another thing that I've been messing around with, and it's something that is very useful, because currently the way that it's done is that I need to get a request from the team to say, hey, shoot me the economic calendar, or shoot me the earnings report, or shoot me this chart. And I'm like, bro, you can, like, we can do this like much more efficiently. I just haven't had the time to build some of these bots integrated into Slack. So we'd love to see that integration. It sounds like you already have pretty good integrations with other communication channels. So sounds like you're basically right there. And I think for me personally, those are the big ones. Now, for the broader analyst in crypto, what you guys are building with Pro is super essential. I think Terminal was a great first step for an analyst that is not familiar with programming to use it. y'all made the onboarding experience relatively easy. You just download, run the exe, and you have the terminal going. The next iteration is essentially the Pro that you and I have talked about previously, where you allow non-programmers essentially, because a lot of the time I'm thinking about how can I empower them to do the analytics so that they leave me alone. Essentially, it's like just go mess around with this thing. You don't need me. I might be shooting myself in the foot on that one, but essentially it's a way for making the team more efficient and removing myself from the bottleneck there. So I think what you guys are doing with Pro, with the bots, is essentially what the new features that I would love to see. And then lastly, the crypto data, just beefing up that crypto menu would be fantastic for our use case.
Oh, that's so nice. So nice to hear, because like it seems that all of your requests, like we are pretty much thinking about that. One that you didn't mention that I think that is a huge one is our Excel add-in that is coming in.
Sure.
For analysts that, still, because Excel is not going anywhere. Like, we are talking about the rise of Python, but Excel is not going to go anywhere, still like, entire financial infrastructure is like built on top of it. And so you being able to have this exact, I think that it helps as well, because imagine someone that is using Excel and they use the convention to get, let's say, load data is openbb.stocks.load, right? That's the same convention syntax that they're going to use on the SDK. And so whenever they are reading like the code from Quantor and Analysts on how they built like a Streamlit app, they will understand exactly what was done because they are using the same convention. And so like, that's why we are so passionate about like building not just one product, but like a full ecosystem of products that work really, really well together. And so you learn one, and then in a way you learn all the others,
That's I'm not a super user of Excel anymore. I basically rely mostly on Python for anything data related, but the guys that I work with are heavy Excel users. So to your point, the Excel add-in would make a lot of sense. And if you look at similar products, private or like Bloomberg or anything, any other private tool, they all have that capability. So I think that's one, on top of all the innovations that you guys have, that's one at least that put you on par with some other data products out there.
Agree. No, look, this was an amazing call. I mean, like I learned new things, and we've chatted before, and I learned new things. I learned about you working on the Slack. I learned about you doing the SDK before us. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for today. And do you want to leave a few words for people watching this? Do you want to leave your socials? Where can people find you or learn more about?
I'm pretty consistent in my socials. So at Roberto Talamas in LinkedIn, in Twitter, and Telegram. So I'm lucky that I don't think there's only two Roberto Talamases out there. It's me and my dad. So if you see a bald dude as a profile picture, like that's not me.
It's
just
not you.
Yeah, exactly. So feel free to follow me. I mostly do stuff that has to do with data, pretty charts, everything Matplotlib, stats. And yeah, man, I'm really excited to see where OpenBB ends up, and just know that I am a power user and also the first one using every single new feature that you guys put out. So excited for that.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate your time and your kind words. They mean a lot, and I'm sure that I'm going to share this with the team, and everyone is going to be super excited about it. So yeah, I appreciate it. Okay.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you, man. Have a great week. Thank you so much.
Oh.
Bye.